Fahad AlButairi.
Butairi.
Butairi.
Butairi with a T, yeah. It's a common mistake, don't worry, because most people read my name in English when they translate. Most of the time they go for the ta because it's closer to al-Mutairi, which is another family.
See, that's what I was thinking, right?
Yeah.
That's I was thinking more of the Khaliji way of saying things, and I have failed you right off the gate, I think.
Well, not really, but it's a common mistake.
Stumbled right out of the gate.
It's all right. It's fine.
Well, I'm very glad that you're taking some time to sit with me today.
Thank you.
I don't think there's much introduction to be had, but just in case there are people out there who don't really know what's going on here. I know you because I follow your stuff on YouTube. I know that you're you're an entertainer from Saudi Arabia, and I absolutely love the scene out there, especially in comedy. I think it's wonderful, and
nice.
I know that you're one of the pioneers in that area. You've started quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the internet age, if you will, not the TV age, but like the internet age. I think back in.
Although right now it's kind of merging together.
I would say it is. Yeah. And that's good. That's a good thing. To bring both worlds together. But I think when I looked at you, I think the first place where I got to know you was the Kit Kat thing you've done.
Oh, the Kit Kat Comedy Break Show.
Yeah. That was the first. I was like, who is this guy? He's funny, And I started going to your videos and stuff, and I started seeing that you're into the Tilfaz crew, and I saw some of the stuff you've done with the Fulaim, and I just love it, man. I just think it's brilliant. So I'm going to give you a bit of time just to sort of tell us where you come from, what you do, how you got into comedy, and then maybe we can start talking about comedy in general. So
okay, sure. Yeah. How to introduce myself? I'm a guy who, I guess, gets a lot of people to laugh, and the rest really pissed off. Okay. So
and you're doing something right. So
yeah, I guess I'm doing something right. But in retrospect, I guess I would maybe to label if I were to use labels, would be a comedian, actor, and sometimes writer.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And you've been doing this for quite some time.
Yes.
Right. So when did you start? That's I've gotten exposed to you in 2011, but I'm sure it goes before that, right?
With stand-up comedy, I started in the U.S. while attending the University of Texas at Austin.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Cool.
So I'm a Longhorn.
Right. Okay. See, I know this is heavy metal.
No, that's the thing. Even when I was a student there, the university was starting to think about suing rock bands that tarnished the image of the hand sign, because this is the Longhorn sign. Really? Because the logo for the university is a Longhorn. Right. So it looks like this.
Well, you do it really well. Because I'm a metalhead. So when you do this, I'm like, he's got the horns down.
They even have an emoji for it now.
Oh, there you go.
I graduated from UT Austin. My bachelor's was in geophysics, had nothing to do with what I do right now.
Oh, wow.
I started doing stand-up gigs in Austin, Texas. Sort of like a thing on the side that I was doing while attending college. I guess at first it was me trying it out because a lot of friends told me that they think that I'm funny. I had to swallow all my self-doubt and try it for at least 2 minutes on stage. And first time I bombed big time. Okay. And I thought, I'm not going to do this ever again. And then one night my roommate, who was from Kuwait, he told me, you're doing a few things wrong and you should draw from your own personal experience. Don't rehearse too much and don't write jokes that don't represent who you are, because as soon as you get up on stage, I thought about this later on, and it's so true, because as soon as I get up on stage, the first thing, I'm in Texas, the first thing they see is my skin color. Okay. So he's brown, where is he from? Right. So if you just get into jokes that are related to American culture immediately without introducing yourself culturally, right, in what context you're speaking, you kind of alienate some of the audiences. Yeah. So I tried it again, got a great reaction, so I kept on doing it, and it turned into more of a, I guess, cathartic hobby. To kind of complain about things that I can't really talk about. Right. in such a format, because I was making fun of everything that pissed me off, or anything that upset me, or anything that concerned me, and it was a way to kind of like smooth out some of the ideas that I wanted to present to some audiences, or just gave me like, I guess, a soapbox to kind of like express myself, and that helped shape my personality, since I was actually free to explore certain ideas and come up with my own opinions and perspectives on certain issues and things. And it pretty much is the reason why I am the way I am right now.
Right.
I always grew up, growing up, I was always a shy kid. I was, sheltered, overprotected, a geek, a nerd. Wasn't very much an extrovert, so there wasn't much room to develop a personality in that.
Yeah.
But it did help me hone some of my sense of humor as a defense mechanism, I guess.
Right. Right.
A way of protecting myself against bullies and any kind of like difficult situation. So I picked up, I guess, the first seed of humor from my uncle, from my mother's side. He is a great, funny guy, and I think I picked up his just, lightheartedness and just quick wit and funny perspective on a lot of things. And then that kind of developed into what I did with my stand-up routines, and then I found like a certain voice, and then coming back here, I was lucky enough to participate in a few events. 2005, I believe, or 2006 saw the birth of the Accessible Comedy Tour.
Right, yeah.
Which was the first, I guess...
the birth of
comedy that represented Arabs and Arab Americans.
Right.
In general, Middle Eastern Americans, to be more precise. And to see that kind of flavor of comedy happening... every ethnicity has its own flavor of comedy. You got African American humor. You got, I guess, German humor. You have obviously Jewish American humor too. So there's a lot of ethnic factors that are involved in a lot of styles of humor.
Right.
So then we found our own voice with the Accessible Comedy Tour as, I guess, a first sign. And then that kind of trickled over here in this region. More people got interested in stand-up comedy shows here in Dubai and different parts of the GCC and the Arab world. And then Jordan had its first regional, stand-up comedy festival, the Amman Stand-up Comedy Festival,
right, yeah.
Which was really interesting. Though it was short-lived, it definitely helped boost the region's comedy scene. Mm-hmm. And my first gig was opening up for the Accessible Comedy Tour, namely Maz Jibrani and Ahmed
nice.
In Bahrain, Manama.
Okay.
Bahrain, in October 2008. And ever since, more gigs and events popped up in Saudi, so I was lucky enough to participate in those too. And then we kind of like, as a whole scene, stand-up comedy scene in Saudi, we just switched to Arabic because we were like, well, hold on one second.
Right.
We started off opening acts for English-speaking comedians to sort of an audience that doesn't speak Arabic 100%, so we were speaking in English. But then we started seeing that we were less and less opening acts and more headlining acts, and we started headlining our own shows to 100% Arabic audiences.
Right.
So we just switched.
Yeah.
We just switched to Arabic. And
was that switch difficult though? I mean, like,
it was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. We had to kind of reformulate our own unique voices in stand-up comedy, the way we write the jokes. You have to think in Arabic to be able to write in Arabic. So it was just like...
And that's difficult, man.
It is.
Well, especially if you're coming up...
It's not difficult as much as it is challenging. It definitely has... you face a lot more... way more obstacles doing that, because then, when you switch to Arabic, you widen your audience. Yeah,
definitely. I mean...
And when you widen your audience to non-English speakers that could potentially increase the percentage or the possibility of you pissing off somebody.
Right, yeah.
So we're very, I mean, you know, Arabs are very passionate people.
Right.
So they either really laugh or they
really get angry.
Really get angry. So, you know, they really like you or really dislike you. And that was the challenge at first. And then I found, you know, with doing enough stand-up gigs, I met a lot of creatives in the country through those, you know, events that were like gathering places for a lot of creatives and people who are aspiring to be something more than they were. And, you know, you meet directors, you meet photographers, you meet people who aspire to be stand-up comedians, people who want to be actors.
That's in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah. In Saudi. So when that happened, we had like a little bit of a network that was slowly building. And I capitalized on that and approached one, Ali Kelthami, who ended up becoming the director for our first show on YouTube, which was titled La Ikthar. So the concept, came up with the concept. We had a Saudi graphic designer, Munira Tamimi, who has a studio, I hear now. You know, shout out to Munira and
the crew.
And all the best to them in their future endeavors. And so she created the logo for the show. And we opened up a YouTube channel. At that point, there wasn't such a thing as a partnership program in the Middle East.
Right.
It was just non-existent because there wasn't significant viewership coming out of this region. Until we started, and then, you know, a lot of people started with us, and then there was a scene, and we got, you know, we went from like, you know, thousands of views to millions of views, and then, you know, the numbers of subscribers, you know, reached 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, and then eventually like millions.
Well, it must be crazy that you're sitting there and you're seeing that count going up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah, it was a driving force for us to just keep going, and then at some point we started working things out where we managed to get sponsors for the shows that we were doing, and that managed to pay for a lot of the costs, the production costs that we're kind of like, you know, I guess pitching in to the show without expecting any return. And when it became profitable, that's when we all kind of started doing this full time.
Amazing, man.
Yep.
It really is like doing your dream and like finding, like creating.
It is. You have to understand, it was very difficult to kind of create this organically growing audience.
Right.
But eventually it happened, and with that kind of, you know, publicity and that kind of fame, I guess, there was a lot of pressure. And a lot of scrutiny, and, you know, you got to be careful, and you're way more careful the more views you get, and it was a challenge.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, it's I'm sitting on the audience front, and I just remember I watch a lot of YouTube. I mean, I love YouTube. I love just internet content in general. And I remember when I think one of the first Saudi comedians I was exposed to was the show Esh Elli.
Badr Saleh. Shout out to Badr Saleh. Okay.
I was surprised. Like, he was like, I just found him and I was watching him and I was like, this guy's really funny. Like, this is, I want to watch more of this. And I remember I binged like a full season or whatever you could call it. But it was
that's so 2016 or 17. You know, it's
I'm just
binge watching,
watching like one episode after the other, and I was like, who is this guy, man? He's hilarious. And at the time, I was working for a company a car company. Okay. And I was telling them, like, we should really sponsor this guy. You know, this guy is really hilarious. And then we found out that you guys asked for a lot of money. And I was like, damn, there's a real business there. There's a real scene. And then I started discovering you and discovering everybody else. And later on, I discovered Fulaim and the crew. And I think their editing is just unreal. I mean, it's like Guy Ritchie shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's some really great editing. You know what I mean? And I'm just so impressed with that entire scene over there. You know, and it really is a Saudi Arabia phenomenon. Really, it just spurred from that country and then sort of like trickled down into other countries as well. I mean, you could make an argument for Jordan as well. They have Kharabish. They're doing some really good stuff out there as well. But I can't think of really huge hotspots for these comedy, entertainment, Arabic content sort of thing that's coming out of the region, except for these two countries. I don't know about if there's anything else that you know.
Well, Egypt too. Egypt was also,
of course,
But I mean, Egypt and Saudi Arabia just happened to be two of the top scenes for stuff like that. You know, mainly because of the population.
Right.
I guess two of the biggest populations in the region.
And you speak to the rest of the region, right? I mean, Saudi Arabia,
naturally,
the Khaliji accent.
Definitely, like two accents that are, you know, very popular in the region and understood by most people. I think that also, you know, since language is a vessel, I think that's the dialect is part of the reason why, you know, we spread virally, basically, the whole scene. And I guess, well, with Jordan, the accents are sort of similar. So we get them, they get us, and
but they're probably bigger in the like Jordan, Lebanon,
the Levant region.
The Levant region, exactly. Shout out to the Levant region.
Shout out to the Levant region. Yeah. So. By the way, I love this boost right here.
You gotta tell the world that I have a Yeezy, you know? They need to know.
They need to know, yeah. So that's cool. Going back to the scene, I think also because we were, I guess we were facing a lot of challenges. New media, social media, you know, e-media in general wasn't seen as real media at all.
Right. Just like a hobby, you know,
like a thing on the side, you know, it's just like some YouTubers, you know, some YouTube videos. And at some point we started seeing regulations, you know, being built around what we were doing while we were doing it, which was, you know, scary but exciting at the same time because though we were being regulated, we were being recognized. Yeah,
I was about to say recognition is a very important thing. Yeah.
So it is a big thing. And from there, globally, the global trend in general was heading towards digital platforms, you know, eventually because the lines were being blurred between like electronic media and traditional media outlets. Yeah. And then you started having networks that were, you know, starting apps for their, you know, productions, and then you started seeing, you know, companies that were, you know, big electronically start investing in media, like Amazon, for example,
right?
Or you know, Netflix, which started as a DVD rental service, you know, and then all of a sudden they were like, well, let's start web streaming. And then they improved the web streaming so much that they were like, well, we need more material and more content. So they started producing their content.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why I guess Amazon and Netflix really, you know, just, you know, catapulted into this big, you know, these big successes is because they were sitting on a gold mine, a data mine, that is.
Right.
So they knew what the trends were. They knew what people liked. That gave them the upper hand, you know, against traditional media outlets. They were still like calling up people to ask them if they were watching shows for ratings and stuff like that. So then they started not only realizing that, you know, some productions are more popular than others, but actually predicting what would be popular. And then we had shows like House of Cards pop up, and they became huge successes because, you know, Netflix already knew what people wanted.
Right.
And, you know, down to the last detail, to, the, you know, what director they're going to choose, who's going to be the lead actor, everything.
They're a major studio now. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
So now
91 Emmy nominations. I mean, just for this season. That's insane.
Absolutely. And not only that, but then they started, you know, attracting people that were, you know, stars in their own fields with traditional media. Everyone from like Brad Pitt to, you know, getting, you know, productions that were actually, you know, I guess traditional studio or independent movie productions, and then turning them into shows for their platform. Yeah. Like Dear White People, you know.
Right.
They took a movie and then it turned into a series and they produced the whole thing. And they started, and the really interesting thing about Netflix specifically is they started investing in local content in Brazil and Latin America and recently Germany as well as Korea, and they started investing, you know, in content, localized content. Well, you know, they're Netflix originals, so they're available on the platform for anyone who's subscribed globally.
Right.
But they gave a local flavor to, so they became they had shows that became ambassadors for certain cultures.
Right. Yeah.
With Amazon, for example, what they were doing is when they were investing in movies and in series, what they did was they created an online community where where anyone pretty much can upload a script, upload a proof of concept, show idea, a pilot, whatever, and people vote it up and down, and you get like expertise from certain professionals in the field to give you, like testimonials and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they did that. That's crazy.
They did, yeah. And that's the reason why they swept a lot of Oscars recently. Is because they were able, they had a different approach than Netflix. They were able to pick up on that and be able to know what from what people were reading, what people were seeing on the website. They realized, this seems to be like it's going to be a hit because it's very popular, at least amongst critics. And then they became commercial successes, not only critical successes. So that's with Amazon and Netflix, and then you got YouTube, which also started changing its policy.
Right. Yeah.
Especially in 2016, they started thinking, especially in the region in the Middle East, we're being, treated like a substitute for TV. We're not. We don't want to be. We want to be, a completely different entity. So they ended up, I guess, giving more support to vloggers and people who were, posting more regularly, globally, of course. Weekly shows, at least weekly shows. But they definitely encouraged people to post daily. That's when we started having a tough time.
Right.
Because we were posting bi-weekly at the most frequent, So they wanted more frequent productions, that they wanted a more organized schedule. And since our production value is a little higher than most of the stuff that's happening out there with vlogs and everything, so we started struggling. And that's when, and with TV also slowly dying in the region.
Right.
Like the content is getting, too bland and too repetitive, and I guess also marketing earnings from like ads and stuff on TV are getting a strong hit because most brands are choosing to advertise online to reach out to
the younger audience is now
exactly.
It's all about video on demand and when you want to watch something.
You have a high penetration in the region for internet, also for smartphones. So they started seeing that as a cheaper, more effective way of advertising the products.
Right. I saw you retweet something the other day about a person who stopped their channel on YouTube.
Not one person, a lot of people.
Yeah. So, and that person
that was Mashhur Dubayan.
I think so. I'm not sure. I just found it a very interesting thing that he was talking about. He had millions of subscribers and viewers and so on, but then he decided to shut off his channel because it was a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, not from the subscriber number, but
from YouTube.
From YouTube to post regularly, and then people who don't find themselves in a situation where YouTube doesn't support them as much. They don't see. They don't get the same support as some of the. They're not featured on the front page like they used to. They used to be, and they're not seeing the same amount of earnings as some of these like daily vloggers or weekly vloggers and there's this new thing called watch time where YouTube actually measures how long do you retain your audience throughout the whole video, and whether or not they go and watch something else similar to yours. So there's tailing views too. And all of these factors kind of like squeezed out a lot of creatives.
Right.
There's this new scene of younger people who are vlogging and who are posting like pranks and like challenges and stuff like that. And they easily get millions of subscribers.
Right.
And even though initially when it first, the first couple of years, 3-4 years, I guess, initially was the number one most subscribed channel in the whole Arab world.
Yeah.
I stumbled upon a channel yesterday. It was called X Videos. It has at least 400,000 more subscribers than it should be right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so like over 3.5 million subscribers.
That's crazy.
So,
but that waters down the quality of content, right?
Well, but that's what YouTube wants. they don't want their quality of content to compete with TV. They're not trying to compete with TV.
Okay.
Like if you want TV production, if you want productions that are that high of value, you need to find some other platform.
But do you think these content creators could go, for example, on Facebook and start utilizing that platform as a content or as a video?
Well, that's for the future to tell. I'm not sure. I mean, definitely, Facebook is definitely picking up.
Because I could see some people now who just don't have YouTube presence, but just have Facebook presence, and it's just easier to grow that audience.
Not in the Arab world, though.
Not in the Arab world. No.
The reason is because Facebook has, found a way to make it profitable for these people. Right now, Facebook in the Middle East is so slowly getting in on the game, and they're slowly, I guess, reaching out to certain media entities, content producing entities and they're trying to create media partnerships with them. I guess, for the purpose of making their stuff profitable and to boost the platform in general. Because you got Instagram that's competing with video content, and Snapchat that has this like fleeting, video content as well.
Right.
A little limited, but it's still, video content. And then you got YouTube, and then you got Vimeo, which is turning into more of a showreel platform where more professional people are posting stuff like documentaries or short films or whatever. So Vimeo found its like premium content line.
Yeah.
While YouTube is trying not to be that at all.
It's now YouTube is more about, like you said, it's just the pranks and the vlogs and.
I mean, my personal opinion is that's horrible content, but that's my personal opinion.
But that's very interesting because I read somewhere where YouTube is trying to actually focus on long form content. So rather than just have
on a different platform, which is YouTube Red.
Okay.
The long form content within that, it's going to be a tough thing to, I guess, get picked up in the region because you already have, I guess, a larger number of people, a huge number of people that trust other platforms that have already tried and have actually been very satisfying, like Netflix or even Amazon Prime, which is a video platform. And to come into that market with that kind of, they already have the whole YouTuber, I guess, what would it?
Like a feel, like a YouTuber.
The YouTuber facade, I guess, or
because even when you look at
the YouTuber identity,
right,
they're coming in with that. So people already have certain prejudices, especially content creators, towards YouTube. So it's going to be very difficult to get people to work with them.
That's so strange, though.
Also because even with them trying to do that, even with them boosting daily or more frequent fleeting content, their earnings don't even compare to earnings that YouTubers get worldwide, in Europe, the UK, or even in the US. So they're still struggling with that, and unless they fix it very soon, they're going to start losing even
content creators and
those vloggers or kids that are uploading.
I smell a business opportunity. Maybe we should start a new network that's catered for.
I mean, not for me personally, but because I completely switched.
Okay.
I recently was lucky enough to, while still doing my, creating content for YouTube and online in general. I was lucky enough to participate in a few other productions on more traditional platforms. I was able to participate in movies.
Okay.
I was the lead actor in Ali Mustafa's second sophomore feature film, which is called From A to B.
Excellent.
To great reactions from audiences in the region. The cinema scene is still picking up, especially in the GCC.
Right.
So there's a lot that's a green field that still needs to be harvested. TV is also slowly turning to these young creators that have graduated, let's say, from YouTube, and they're turning more into talents that are professional and are, silver screen worthy.
Right.
So
these talents that leave YouTube, like, some of the people we're talking about, do you think that they graduate and do something else, or do they just drop the entire thing and stop creating content? Because part of this content creation thing is really passion, right? It's not just about being paid. So, for example, I'm doing this thing right here, but for me, I'm not really looking to get paid. It's just more about talking to interesting people.
But at some point, you're going to expect to be paid. Because
I guess you're right.
Especially if you reach a point where it's not only your passion, it becomes your career.
Right.
You still got to make a living. You can't just
of course.
Well, artistic value is number one and you're broke.
Of course, yeah.
Nobody's creative on an empty stomach.
Right. But what happens to the people who leave YouTube, right? What happens to that? So you, fortunately, you're into art and acting and all that stuff. So there's a logical place for you to go. But so somebody that creates gaming content, what's their next step? You know what I mean? If it's not YouTube, then...
Well, there's a lot. I mean... there's a lot of platforms like Twitch, I guess, and other platforms that might arise all of a sudden and pick up, all these gamers.
Right.
There's still some room on TV for gaming communities, which is, part of the reason why TV's switching to different kinds of formats of content, because now, with the earnings from marketing and ads dropping, they're turning into more high quality, low budget productions
like this
and content like this. And because of this, because they're low budget, they're slowly turning more into newcomers, not the guys they used to rely on before, which have they're really old and they become they're like dinosaurs of TV, so they're outdated and
time to go.
There's a generation gap, so you got to switch over.
Especially we're a very young population, right? So
absolutely,
we need representation on TV.
Some of the main influential figures in the older generation of TV content creators have turned into producers for these young people. So that's a smart move. They started using their expertise and their connections and influence in getting these guys on the screen. That's part of the reason why I also recently finished producing a sitcom series for NBC channel.
Nice. Oh, right. Awesome.
Everyone on the team, when it comes to whether it's like the production team or the cast or the writing team, has never done anything for TV before. And the series is called Cut. And it's about 5 Saudi students studying filmmaking in Los Angeles. We were lucky enough to actually shoot the whole thing in Glendale, California.
Really?
In the Los Angeles area. So
wow, when does that air?
Should be in a couple of months.
It's in Arabic, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Arabic and English, because there's a lot of situations with Americans, since they're studying in LA. So there's a lot of situations with Americans. We worked with a lot of amazing American talents. And those are subtitled, of course, the English parts. So mainly Arabic speaking. And our producer is actually actor, comedian Nasser Qasabi. So he's one of these people that kind of switched to a producer role to, pass the torch. But he's definitely going to be remembered for this.
Right.
Because it's a smart move. Not a lot of people... can put their egos aside and actually do something like this, because they always want to be the stars of their shows, their own shows and stuff like that. He doesn't appear in any of our episodes, so he never tried to steal the light from us, while still making sure that, with his connections and his influence, he was able to get us greenlit for production.
Amazing.
So that's great. And even with channels like NBC, that's where the lines are kind of blurring. A channel like NBC now is turning more into turning its head towards its online platform, Shahid. So they're trying to acquire more content to broadcast across Shahid,
right? As
well as produce content for TV and to boost for TV, as well as boost some of their their content bank on Shahid as well. So, and some of their stuff might actually be lower budget and specifically just for Shahid, just online.
Yeah.
So a lot of networks are turning to that because they know that's where the new wave is coming. And I guess YouTube is doing its own thing, and now you're starting to see more distinct identities online.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that we need here is more acceptance. Well, I don't know if acceptance is the right word, but a much more widespread or mainstream acceptance of the arts and comedy and all that kind of stuff.
That will happen organically.
Well,
eventually.
what I'm thinking about is, so I was just in LA last week, and I'm really jet lagged right now, by the way. So,
Okay, all right.
So I'm just like, but one thing that I loved about Los Angeles is that you could literally find on any given night, there is like 10 comedy shows happening throughout the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that. And then I was, my first day there, I was just walking down the street, and one of the comedians I like and podcasters, Joe Rogan, was actually performing. So,
Comedy Store?
And no, he was in the Laugh Factory, which I think you performed there as well, right?
Yeah.
So really cool place, and it's amazing. It just blew my mind that I could just literally walk down the street, Sunset Boulevard, and I could just see the poster of Joe Rogan. I was like, oh, damn! I need to. And I went up to the guy.
It's definitely the happening place.
It's awesome, and I think New York to some degree has that as well. Not as big as LA, probably, because I guess it's Los Angeles and so on. But I wish we had something like that here, where you could just like Google and see like what's happening across the city in terms of comedy shows, Broadway, or theater, or talks, or. Because I don't enjoy clubbing, I don't enjoy shisha, I don't enjoy,
I understand, but like it's slowly happening in Dubai. Dubai and Abu Dhabi specifically, they're slowly diversifying their...
Well, Dubai is a good market for it, We're such a diverse...
They're diversifying the calendar of events. I mean, you have Dubai Opera House now.
Yeah.
And
great step, and a great place. I mean,
great place. Yeah. There are talks about creating a local comedy club in Dubai right now.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
There's a lot of local talent like Ali Said, a great stand-up comedian, a friend of mine, who are from the UAE and would love to do something like this.
He's a Dubamidi guy, right? Ali Said, yeah.
Dubamidi guy. And
he was on the Comedy Cellar as well. I saw the other day he was performing at the Comedy Cellar in New York,
while I was shooting the sitcom, I bumped into him too there in Los Angeles, which was really cool. But we're starting to have local comedy clubs now.
Right.
There's one that's very prolific and very happening. It's called El Comedy Club.
Okay.
It's in Jeddah.
Oh, that's in Jeddah. Okay. My sister lives in Jeddah, so I will definitely let her know.
It's a great place to go. Yeah, they have open mic nights, and then they have headline nights, like I guess twice or three times a month. They have a website.
There's a lot of people who go there and like.
Yep. I performed there twice. Both times were sold out.
Really?
So there's a lot of people that want to see comedy. It's only like 200 seats or so it's got this cozy feel.
Right.
But it's big enough to get a significant audience.
And it just in the Laugh Factory was just $10 to go in. That's super cheap, man. That was like
open mic nights at the comedy club are like 40 riyals, so 40 riyals. So that's about
great. That's a great price, man. Yeah.
There is also the Kuwait Comedy Club. Mm-hmm. That was started by Comedy Club was started by the Comedy Club and the Kuwait Comedy Club were both started by stand-up comedians.
Okay.
Saudi stand-up comedian Yasser Bakr started the Comedy Club. Shout out to Yasser Bakr.
Right. Shout out.
And Kuwait Comedy Club was also created by a Kuwaiti comedian, stand-up comedian, Ahmed al-Shimri. Shout out to Ahmed al-Shimri. And then,
I don't know why I dropped the mic there. I'm not sure about that.
And then you got Nizar Samarrai in Jordan with Chaplains. So you got like these 3 local comedy clubs that are very happening.
I had no idea these things existed. That's amazing.
Yeah. Slowly if you go to Saudi, everybody knows the comedy club.
Uh-huh.
And the Kuwait Comedy Club is slowly picking up also a pretty nice, reputation, as well as Chaplains.
Well, we got this theater here in Dubai, the Mall of the Emirates Theater, and I think they have some shows there.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have a dedicated comedy
Those
club.
are dedicated with identities and a group of regular comedians and everything.
There's a really good sort of appetite for it, because like you have a lot of these comedians that come out here, like Trevor Noah or you know, Dave Chappelle was here last year.
I met him in LA, and I met Trevor when he was here in Dubai. Yeah.
Oh, that's I mean, you know, and you get sold out shows, and even Kevin Hart. Not a big fan of Kevin Hart, but whatever. He came here and he had like a sold out show.
Yep.
So there's an appetite. You know what I mean? That's it's a great
obviously.
appetite for it. Yeah.
I think the difference between the U.S. and here, or specifically
Oh, sorry.
Los Angeles.
Give me a second. Yeah.
All right. So I guess the main difference between the U.S. and here mainly is how stand-up comedians can benefit from stage time at local comedy clubs. Over there, you're really good. You do a couple of shows. There happens to be a scout in the audience. Picks you up, gets your contact information, calls you up to shoot a pilot for a TV network, a sitcom or a show or whatever, and then you make it. And then that's how every single sitcom we grew up watching in the 90s, or even like sitcoms that are happening right now, as you know, as recent as Aziz Ansari's Master of None sitcom. I mean, he had this year where he was really shining as a stand-up comedian, and then slowly turned into a producer of a sitcom and a writer for a sitcom.
Right.
That starred him. As far back as like Seinfeld and Home Improvement, all that stuff just happened, the same way. Here, we still don't have that concept of scouting for talents and catching, like really good comedians and offering them, a deal for a pilot. If it's greenlit, then they turn it into a series. We still don't have that.
Right. I think Ali Sayed has he's trying to do that with Dubamadi.
Dubamadi and OSN, they have Comedy Al Waqif, which is like a local Arabic stand-up special.
There are these things. It's just not. I think it's
but it's just like one platform. Like TV in general, networks in the region are still controlled by certain localized monopolies.
Right.
Well,
I think it's just we're depending too much on TV.
Yeah.
I think forget TV. It needs to be an organic scene, right? I think Saudi Arabia has a good organic scene and it's growing.
But here's the thing: we don't need to get rid of TV. We don't need to set aside TV. We just need to change
don't
it.
rely on it so much. I mean,
No,
TV shouldn't be the driver. It should be.
It's not that either. We should rely on it as a platform. The method of delivering the content is not really important. Now you can subscribe to an internet connection with an internet service provider, and then they give you a TV connection with it anyway, and it's all digital online. So that's not that big of a deal. You could rely on it as a platform, but there needs to be more outreach from these TV networks to pick up on this organically growing scene.
Right.
Whether it's Saudi or outside.
Right.
I mean, you want a good writer? Well, go watch a couple of stand-up comedians. If they're writing, you can tell if a person's a good writer from their their sets. It's not that difficult to tell. And if you pick up a couple of them, get them to work together, like pick up two comedians that are really good, and then some guy who's had like a really funny blog, and then put them together in a room and see what you come up with.
Right.
Then you could come up with a great concept. We still don't have that. There's a little bit of outreach, but they're more like, I guess, isolated lines of communication, like an individual effort more than anything.
Right.
Like one person within that network would go and reach one guy and reach out to him and be like, hey, why don't you do this show? Like Badr Saleh with his show Layla Ma Badr Saleh on NBC. It's more like, I don't want to call it an isolated incident, but it's a very rare occasion when that happens.
Well, Badr Saleh, he became huge, right?
He became huge, so it's very hard to ignore him.
Millions of views per video, and like it just... He really skyrocketed,
Exactly, and he had a pretty good season with Layla Ma Badr Saleh. So, networks are slowly starting to reach out, but they're still being controlled by these monopolies that don't want to lose their jobs.
Right. Yeah.
Because, we are the producers and we are the writers, which is really wrong. You can't have, like in-house creative development teams. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Even if you call it a separate company, but it's still within the umbrella of the network, like what happens with a lot of networks in the region, that doesn't give you what you want. That doesn't give you an edge. And you see the same faces every single season, every single show, same actors, same directors, same concepts, and it's kind of getting old. I mean, you do have these 1 or 2 shows that pop up all of a sudden and then disappear. Like there's a show on NBC called 37 درجة, which actually came up with a complete cast of newcomers, which was also produced by Nasser Al-Qasami for a couple of seasons, but I guess the actors didn't want to do it anymore, so it was very difficult to get that team back together again.
Wow.
But it's like especially in Egypt, it's the same group of people doing the same group of shows,
right?
Or same type of shows. It's Adil Imam doing his same thing every Ramadan,
right?
And then you got Ahmed Mekki doing the same thing, and you got whatever, and it's like
it became tradition. You know what I mean? Like what's Adil Imam's new thing?
Yeah, what's Adil Imam's new thing? And it's him in a suit. In starring in his show, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not bad shows, but
I don't watch them. I'm not gonna.
But then you see like certain isolated productions, like 1 or 2 productions that happen to appear around the same time that that has potential, and you see newcomers join these things, but it's not a common thing, and unless it becomes a common thing, then we're just going to have the same stuff on TV, and then online platforms are going to capitalize on this gap of viewership on traditional platforms, and they're just going to pick up these creatives that have, let's say, graduated from certain, social media platforms and YouTube and whatever, and they're just going to give them the chance that they've been looking for and create great stuff, and then they're just going to, that platform is going to gain, more of a demographic of more demographics of subscribers, and that are guaranteed premium content globally, and then they're just gonna eat up all these networks that are lagging behind.
Yeah. So for you, let's like switch gears here. Who is your favorite comedian? I mean, like, who got you into this thing? Who you said, I'd like to,
Funny enough,
I feel like you're gonna say Seinfeld, but
I grew up watching Seinfeld. But I guess the one person that really got into stand-up comedy was Woody Allen, and then Seinfeld. But I mean, I grew up watching Seinfeld, the show.
It's a very unconventional answer, Woody Allen.
Yeah. But he did have. It's true. He hasn't had. If you try to look for recorded performances of his, they're only like 1 or 2.
Right.
And he's had maybe 1 comedy album, I guess.
Yeah.
That I was able to find. A more prolific comedian that was very successful on TV and still is successful as a stand-up comedian is Jerry Seinfeld. So he's more of the success story.
Have you ever seen him live?
Yeah, he's great.
I've seen him in the Beacon Theater last year. It was a dream come true. I mean, seeing Jerry Seinfeld come on stage, do his bits, and it's clean comedy, like you know what I mean, just old school, joke after joke, punchline after punchline, and just like it wasn't even long. It was like 45 minutes to 1 hour, perfect.
But right now, I think the greatest stand-up comedian alive would be Louis C.K.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna give you a pound there, right? Yeah, I love Louis C.K. Yeah, he's awesome.
Louis C.K. he keeps reinventing himself. He's always edgy. He never loses edge. He's had a pretty decent success with his show Louis. He's had a pretty decent success with his.
I love Louis. It's dark comedy, but it's like it's
Louis C.K. I mean, it's his style. I mean,
it's hilarious. It's really
Seinfeld
funny.
is observational, so he had that thing going with him, and going for him. And then you got Louis C.K. with his dark humor, and then you got. You got different comedians, different backgrounds, different styles of comedy.
Right.
Or they have. That's why people like different flavors of ice cream. Like we can't all have vanilla.
Right.
Some of us really like chocolate. Some of us really dislike chocolate.
Yeah.
And so it's more of different flavors of comedy, and you can still like 1 or 2 of different flavors at the same time. It's not a bad thing.
But for me, it's I love watching comedy shows, and I'm very into like the style of comedians and so on. The one style that doesn't really resonate with me is the really over the top shouting, overacting on stage. And I'll give you an example, like Dane Cook.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and I remember back in my university days, Dane Cook was the comedian. You know what I mean? Like everybody was like, "Have you seen that bit by Dane Cook? Oh my god!" And I'd watch it. I'm like, he's just shouting. You know, he's not really doing anything. And I've just recently seen him in LA, just on this trip. And I was very open to changing my opinion about Dane Cook, which I think he's funny in many ways.
In his own way, yeah.
But you know, I just prefer the Seinfelds, the Louis C.K.'s, the
smarter jokes, I guess.
The smarter, sort of jokes. For example,
that's why when I started, for example, doing some of these stand-up comedy shows that I was performing in, amongst the rest of the guys, I was the observational humor guy.
Right.
So, because of that, a lot of guys were comparing me to Seinfeld. I guess because I kind of look like him if I'm clean shaven without glasses. But they kept comparing me to him mainly because of this observational style.
Yeah.
It went as far as the national newspaper in Washington Post calling me the Seinfeld of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
And I even went as far as...
That's pretty cool, man, to be featured on the Washington Post, being compared to Seinfeld.
Pretty cool. And I mean, I've always been a fan of Seinfeld. That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I also was very lucky recently to meet Larry Charles.
Okay.
In Jeddah. He's working on an upcoming project, and I met him, for that project, and it's still not announced, so I can't say much about it.
Right.
But it was a great. We had a great conversation, very insightful, very eye-opening, and I mean, he was like, yeah, you do remind me of Seinfeld. I mean, he worked closely with Seinfeld,
right.
Obviously. I mean, he is, after all, the
no pressure. One
of the lead writers on the show and a producer for Seinfeld. Not only that, but he actually ended up working with Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which just recently renewed for a new season.
Right.
So there's that, awkward, quirky, observational humor too, and he wrote some of the greatest, some of my favorite Seinfeld episodes, like The Outing, for example, or the road trip where Kramer is, mistaken for a murderer. But these like really dark, twisted, observational storylines are his style, and to kind of like talk to this guy, to be able to have this opportunity to talk to someone who wrote some of the stuff that you grew up watching and just ate up while you were young,
right,
and made you, kind of shaped the way you are right now, is just amazing. And
what about Trey Stone and Matt Parker from South Park? Were you ever a fan of South Park and that kind of humor?
Not as much.
Not as much.
I was maybe a bigger fan of Family Guy.
Okay.
And I ended up working with the guys who produced Family Guy too.
Awesome.
Last year, I ended up recording a voice role for them. So I was lucky enough to meet.
That's so cool, man.
To meet some of the writers and the producers, and it was. I even.
Was Seth MacFarlane anywhere around?
No, I wish he wasn't in the studio. But some of their really, some of their head writers were there, and I was lucky enough to meet them. So there's that. So I guess that's the power of online. Reach.
Right, yeah.
Like, if I had my stuff on TV, nobody would have known anything about me. But because I'm online, I'm there, a lot of my stuff is subtitled. It gets picked up globally.
Right.
As far as getting auditions because of the stuff that I do online or some of the stuff that, has reached some of these people, I've gotten emails to audition and self-tape for, so many productions, including but not exclusive to Grand Budapest Hotel. Even the recent Aladdin I was asked to self-tape for.
No way. That's
so there's
Can you sing? Can you
Yeah, to a certain degree.
Did you sing A Whole New World on the tape? And no way.
But it was a different kind of audition. It was definitely interesting.
So how do these things work? Like, how do you?
Well, I got an email. And
And you self-tape at home, and you just did your own thing.
Self-tape at home with a phone, and my wife just videotaped me.
Oh yeah.
And I sent, upload it on Google Drive, send them a link.
Yeah.
That's. I even had the chance to self-tape for a Hulu series, which is But with all these auditions, they ended up picking somebody
Right.
that they felt was more fitting with the role.
But do you feel like you need to move to LA to do these things, like to to get a real chance at?
I mean, it's
to become like Aziz Ansari or.
If I really want to make it there.
You probably have to go there, right?
Yeah, but I think I got a good thing going here.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of potential in this region because there is no scene for a lot of these things.
Right.
Over there, you're working within an environment that's already been established like tens of years ago.
Right.
If not hundreds of years ago. So, the picture studio world over there is very well established. Here, you got the potential to start something from scratch, which is more exciting. I mean, I don't mind getting a few opportunities over there and maybe paying a few visits to LA during the year.
Yeah.
But living there is a completely different thing.
Right, yeah.
I mean, if you live there, then you're disconnected from here completely.
Right.
And
I guess it depends on your priorities, right? What do you want to accomplish? Where you want to go?
Maybe at some point, if I find like I have better potential to succeed there, then I probably would move there, or at least try to get a footing in that scene. But right now, I see like this thing is working out for me pretty well here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's working out for you and you love what you're doing here, then definitely stay around here.
Yep.
But it's if you are getting all these sort of calls and tapings and self tapings and so on, that means there's a lot of potential for you.
For Aladdin, they actually came to the UAE to audition a lot of people.
Okay.
So
I heard they had a really hard time finding someone.
I have my personal opinion about that. But
right. Yeah.
But, I'm glad they actually casted an Arab actor as Aladdin. That's at least that.
Aladdin. It should be an Arab. I think.
I mean that's what they advertised at first.
Yeah.
We really wanted him to be Middle Eastern.
Well, you know what? A lot of like my Instagram, like a lot of people were popping up and singing A Whole New World. It's like, what the hell's going on here? Why is everybody singing A Whole New World?
It was a global casting call. That's
right. And then I found out it was a casting call, and like just a lot of my friends suddenly could sing really well, and it was really, really funny, man. But I was really rooting for some of my friends. I really hope this guy gets it. You know what I mean? But apparently it ended up. I read some kind of article that was really difficult and took them a really long time to find someone.
I mean, they had something that they were looking for, a specific something, and I guess they didn't find it, so they had to kind of work around it and try to find something that would fit the whole vision of the movie.
Right.
I mean, not being picked. Like I was told this by a lot of casting directors. I mean, I did audition in front of a lot of people, including great casting directors like Gina J and John Papsadera and stuff like that. So I was lucky enough to meet these casting directors and get a lot of insight from them. And getting rejected doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're horrible. It doesn't mean that you can't act at all.
It just means you're not right for the role.
It just means you're not right for the role. If you were bad, you wouldn't have been, asked to self-tape for anything.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I'm walking into an audition, like a cattle call or whatever, and I'm walking in and I'm auditioning and everything. No, I'm actually asked via email to self-tape for this thing. So they think that I might add some value to this project.
Right.
Which is the most important thing. Whether they pick me or not, for them to take a long time to decide, that's also very flattering, because that means that, it not only did they think I would add value to it, but it took them a while to say no to me.
Right.
So that's also pretty cool. And
small victories.
Small victories, yeah. And no, somebody's going to say yes at some point.
Right.
Also, maybe I also believe that the better opportunity is definitely going to come along. Mm-hmm. And I believe that whoever they pick for any of the roles that I'm auditioning for really does a good job. And if they do, and most likely they will, I'm just happy that production ended up, finding its voice and finding the right person for the right role. Right,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. I know they're doing a lot of like other Disney movies as well. They're recreating a lot of the old ones. I just hope they don't ruin Lion King, because that's my childhood memory. You know what I mean?
I think so. Jon Favreau did a great job with Jungle Book, so I think he's going to do a great job with Lion King.
Oh, is he? So they're actually recreating Lion King?
Yes.
Oh, well, shit.
With
I did not know that.
Jon Favreau.
Really?
So,
Okay.
as a director,
I love Jungle Book. I thought it was an insanely well done movie.
So, yeah, John is a great director, and I believe he's not going to screw this.
My wife is a huge Disney fan, so she's my litmus test. You know what I mean? She's the one who says, like, it's good. It's not that good. So we finished the movie. I got my popcorn down, you know, like, so what do you think? She's like, it's fine. I liked it. As long as she sang along, we're good. But yeah, these things are, for me, these are very important things, and I'm glad that we're seeing some kind of reach out to the region. You know, I remember when they had that movie, Kings of Egypt. It was ridiculous. They had like all these.
Gods of Egypt or Kings of Egypt?
I don't know. I just saw it on NBC the other day, so it was Kings of Egypt. For obvious reasons, they had to call it that. So, but yeah, just the cast was just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
It was a big, I guess.
And I could understand why
there was a big issue. There was like a lot of, you know, I guess negative reception of the film because of that.
Well, the movie was pretty shitty as well, but all things considered.
But also other movies that probably would have been decent productions, but because of such things, now the term whitewashing is very common in Hollywood. Movies like Ghost in the Shell were, you know, box office flops because of controversy that was mainly revolved around casting Scarlett Johansson as a Japanese character.
Right.
So all these big studios are being careful of not pissing off the people, because if you do, they have options to watch other things on different platforms. Because now,
But don't you think they're walking around eggshells? So, for example, Ghostbusters. Right? That, for me, pissed me off. Because Ghostbusters, when we were kids, it was 4 or 5 guys or whatever. And, you know, it was Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. And then suddenly they want to do a remake of Ghostbusters. Like, hell yeah, and it's going to be really cool with the new technology and everything. It's going to be awesome. Bill Murray, it's going to be great. But then they cast an all-female cast in it, and honestly, that was.
What's wrong with that, though?
I don't know, man. I'm all for, you know, like.
See, here's the
casting the right person for the right role.
If you were pissed,
don't give me like a.
If you got pissed because they were bad actors or the movie was bad, I would understand.
No, it's just like tarnishing the legacy. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
That, dude. Why worry about legacies? You know, that's the thing. They're movies. They're not supposed to be legacies.
But my childhood was all around the Ghostbusters and Bill Murray. And
you grew up now. You're not going to go back to your childhood.
Well, you know, it's part of my nostalgic, you know.
They're not even looking for a demographic. They're looking for people who were barely, you know, who barely had memories around that time.
But they're funny actresses. Don't get me wrong. They're funny actresses. All of them. They're hilarious. All of them in their own respect. They're really funny. I just think that it was something that was done to please people rather than it's something that they wanted to do because, you know, it's almost like the whitewashing thing. They wanted to prove that, hey, see, we're not whitewashing. Look, an all-female cast of Ghostbusters.
What do you think if they had a female James Bond, like a female 007?
But his name is James Bond. You know what I mean?
His name is 007.
But I don't mind if you cast like an African American in that role, but as long as it's a male named James, you know, like
I think you got some issues.
Yeah, that's what I think. But you could have another movie called Rosita Bond. I don't know.
Maybe a spin-off of 007 where it's a female agent.
It's his sister who was his twin, and they were separated at birth, and she's a spy for the American government. And
what I heard was they're trying to take other characters other than James Bond himself, like Moneypenny or M, and make a spin-off series off of that.
Right.
Where you're concentrating more on Moneypenny, and, you know, like she is definitely a cornerstone in the story. M as well.
Right.
And you can have like a complete just like taking one character of Marvel and then doing like a whole movie about it.
Right. Which is fine. I'm so totally cool with that because that's taking a character that exists and developing that character. But taking a character that's originally male or female and replacing it with something else just like to make an audience happy.
If DC started making Wonder Man.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You know, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Why? You know, like we have Batman already. You know, you don't have to have Batman doesn't have to become a female to please.
They have Batgirl.
I know, I know. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean.
Superman, Supergirl.
There's that. Anyway, what I'm talking about is the Ghostbusters thing in particular, because I know there was a lot of controversy around that as well. Yeah. And I consider myself a very open-minded person.
I think it's just the reception, the poor reception of the film was because of the quality of the film and what they ended up getting.
Right.
It was more than just casting females. I mean, sure.
Well, yeah, the quality of the film wasn't great as well. Yeah, I slept halfway through. I was like, I was like, I mean, this is not funny.
If they had created,
they were trying too hard. You know what I mean?
Trying too hard. Yeah.
There's just too much effort in making me laugh when it was.
It's not a bad movie, but it's not as great as the first one. Definitely not.
Yeah.
As great
well, I mean, the classics were great, and. I just wanted to see Bill Murray as a Ghostbuster. Yeah. That's what it was,
That's a little too old.
I just wanted to bring back that memory. Yeah. But so it's not a matter of being against the idea of it. It's just, and I know there was a lot of controversy around that time. There was so much controversy around it on Twitter.
What really pisses me off about what's going on right now in Hollywood, especially in Hollywood, especially when it comes to studio pictures. I'm not talking about independent pictures. They keep rebooting and remaking everything.
Right? Spider-Man seems like had 10 movies since last year. Just.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The last Spider-Man was great.
I'm confused, man. It's like, are we doing this again? What's going on?
But here's the thing. That's a recent remake. I'm talking about like what Disney's doing. They're remaking everything.
Right.
Everything from Jungle Book down to Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and now you got Lion King coming along.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, like really. Why not? Next thing you know, Pinocchio or something,
right, yeah, Yeah.
And like, I don't understand where they're going with this. Why don't you create? I mean, it seems like Hollywood is finding it hard to create
new ideas,
masterpieces. They're even talking about rebooting Scarface.
Oh, okay.
Which is going to be crap because of the initial ideas for lead actors that they've had.
Okay. Anyone you
Google it, you'll find out. It's just so it pissed me off so much. I mean, that kind of it doesn't even have a sequel.
Right.
Why do you have to remake it?
Well, there's a bunch of. There's a bunch of DC spin-offs as well that just don't make sense. I just read one just before you walked in. There was Joker versus Harley Quinn. I was like, wow, well, they're really running out of ideas now.
Yeah.
They're really doing things that are unnecessary.
I mean, Batman versus Superman, disappointment.
Right.
Suicide Squad, I slept halfway through.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that.
I didn't like it at all. They marketed the hell out of that one.
Right, yeah.
And then I went and I'm like, really? And I even saw it at the Chinese theater in Hollywood.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's...
IMAX and everything. And I, booked a week in advance. And I went, I'm like, really?
Didn't do anything for you.
I slept.
You know what? I think I was in the minority there. I was like, you know what? It's a popcorn movie.
It wasn't going anywhere.
I really like my popcorn.
But it wasn't going anywhere.
Harley Quinn was cool. She's hot,
What happened to the trailer was full of the Joker. What happened to the
Right, there was no Joker. There was no Joker. Yeah.
No Joker.
Just like a 2-minute Joker scene there, and that was that.
That's it. You asked, Jared Leto played the Joker.
Right.
In an interview, expressed same kind of disappointment that the audience is.
Right. You know what?
I'm like, if the actor that played the Joker is disappointed, how do you expect me to like it?
There's potential, because I think Jared Leto's a great actor.
Yeah.
He has a good band, a great band, but he's also really good.
He has a lot to live up to because of Heath Ledger's legacy.
Right. Yeah. And that was a legendary Joker, right? So we don't want to mess with that Joker.
That was a legendary Batman movie altogether.
Yeah, that entire thing was great.
I mean, Batman movies, there are pre-Dark Knight Batman movies and post-Dark Knight Batman movies. The Dark Knight was definitely like a milestone.
Right, for me too.
For the Batman franchise.
What did you think of Ben Affleck as Batman?
He was okay. He was good.
Yeah, I didn't mind him.
He was good. He was a good Batman in a bad movie.
Yeah, well, yeah.
With Batman vs. Superman...
The problem with Batman vs. Superman is it was too much cramped up in that movie. Like, there's like so many scenes like just happening. Like, all right, gotta tell the story really quick. It was like...
But like with Superman's glasses really looked fake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that. But
I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I mean, you're not... you're not in that period where it's not the Christopher Reeves kind of Superman. You don't have to look that fake.
Yeah, just grow a beard, something. I don't know, man. It's just people can't tell Superman. But if you took off your glasses right now, I think you'd still Fahad. You know what I mean? Like, I don't be like, who the fuck is that guy? You know what I mean? So,
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna. It's like, oh, I don't know who you are.
Whoa. Well, you do kind of look different, actually. Now they I see what they're doing there. Yeah.
Okay. But it's still like, it's still a disappointment a lot. But now, I mean, I thought it was just like the time for big pictures is out of the window. But then you got big productions like Game of Thrones happening.
Right.
And they are incredibly, superbly successful.
Right, yeah.
And then you have something like, Luc Besson's last movie. I actually went to the opening here in Dubai, the premiere for it. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Right.
It was amazing.
Really? Okay.
It was a big budget picture.
Right.
But it was not a studio picture.
Really?
It was independent.
I had no idea.
He went around, shopped for it. It was the highest budget for any independent film in the history of making films.
I think I want to watch that tonight because I know that's out there tonight.
For me, it reminded me of the beginnings of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Star Wars fan.
Yes, Star Wars fan. Huge Star Wars fan. So it's either Team Star Wars or Star Trek.
I'm definitely Star Wars. Okay.
But it reminded me of the beginnings, and it was so well done, and the themes, the art direction, all that stuff was just like really, really nice.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was amazing, and we actually met Luc Besson, which is really interesting.
Amazing.
He was there. But yeah, that kind of shows me that maybe that's the new game.
Right.
It's like, forget studios, because studios and their creative heads are losing touch with the audiences.
Right.
Go for the independents. I mean, a lot of the financing for Valerian was Chinese, I believe.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And apparently they were they're expecting it to be a huge hit in China too.
Well, isn't Rihanna in it?
Rihanna's in it.
So
Rihanna's in it.
She could be a fellow Saudi in a year or two.
Well, maybe.
You never know.
Maybe. I don't know
if
about
that relationship works out.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, I have my doubts about that, but
we'll see.
We'll see. But anyway,
but it makes sense. You're saying that because it's also I see it in the music industry. The record labels are sort of like losing. It wasn't what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You got YouTube now. You've got Spotify. You've got Apple Music. You've got Adrami. You've got all these platforms that you can self-publish on.
You have terms like SoundCloud rappers.
SoundCloud as well. Exactly. SoundCloud.
That's an actual term in the market. Like, oh, he's a SoundCloud rapper. So he does. So all these like independent, hip hop artists that make their own beats and write their own lyrics and produce their own songs and upload them on SoundCloud, then they get picked up, and all of a sudden you see them in the iTunes store,
right?
Or Apple Music, and it's just really interesting to see that kind of like with SoundCloud and Spotify and all those online audio platforms,
right?
As well as Apple Music, because Apple Music is still an online platform. They're really getting into the market. Now with Tidal, too. They're really getting into the market and eating up all these... first of all, CDs are out of the question. They're gone. CDs are gone.
I still buy CDs and vinyls just for collecting purposes.
Exactly. Vinyls have these nostalgic feel to them.
When the new Metallica album came out, I have the CD and the vinyl, never played them.
Exactly.
But just there for collecting purposes,
collecting purposes. Yeah. So they're more like the objects.
Right.
You're buying it for
the booklet and like...
The booklet and significant,
smelling a new thing when you open it,
So nostalgia is involved in that too. But
I'm a very nostalgic person, if you can tell. Right?
Yeah, I noticed. The thing is with let's say for example with Jay-Z's last album.
Right.
He got a platinum record from the RCAA because... just from online plays and streams.
Right. Yeah.
That was his. That was his number of sales.
Right.
He didn't have to even rely on physical sales.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. It was all digital.
Yeah.
So now, that was 100% his platform to distribute his new album.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very smart of him. because that was a success.
Right.
His album really, peaked the charts, and it was great, and it was all online. Not only that, but I believe now when it comes to like award seasons as well, he got a platinum record, but award seasons as well with Emmys,
right,
and Oscars. Not only Emmys, but also Oscars. I mean, the Oscar winner for Best Picture, Moonlight.
Right.
That's sort of a Netflix co-production.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
haven't seen that yet. I should probably watch that.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Right.
It's a great film. There's also the Oscar for Best Foreign Film, which was A Salesman.
Right.
Asghar Farhadi.
Yeah.
Amazon production.
Yeah.
So they're picking up all these like Oscars for their stuff, and now they're picking up Emmys. For best writing, best casting, and best actors in a drama series, whatever. They're picking up a lot of awards.
Right.
And slowly but surely, these big studios, I know, for example, with Warner Brothers, they were bought in or completely just, bought by AT&T.
Right.
Which is a telecom company.
Yeah.
So now telecom companies within the digital platforms, they still got the infrastructure. They're buying out these studios. So the whole, big studio mentality is dying off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're going to see in the near future, which is slowly, happening, is these digital platforms having premieres in cinemas just, to have an event.
Right.
To have sort of like that social experience.
Right. I think definitely agree with you.
Because a couple of, I think with Game of Thrones this last season, the last couple of episodes they're planning on producing will be released as features.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So that's very smart. Last couple of episodes, Game of Thrones, just Game of Thrones, just throw it into distribution at theaters. And then people will go with, especially like, Game of Thrones fans.
Yeah.
I've never watched a single episode. So
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're part of that
like
minority,
1%.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a House of Cards kind of fan.
Right.
But,
I've watched both. I think they need to end both, to be honest with you. But
with House of Cards,
stretching too long.
I thought so. With season 4, I'm like, they can't do season 5. And then I watched season 5, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, season 5 was good, but I mean, I just like how Breaking Bad ended it. You know what I mean? 5 seasons, told a good story, ended it. We still wanted more, but they ended it at the right time.
Yeah.
I just don't like when shows really stretch. All right, 10 seasons, go. You know what I mean?
With House of Cards, I don't think they're stretching.
Okay.
They just took a turn.
Right.
And it still is genius writing, great direction.
It's a great acting, but it's just when you compare it to real life, it's getting real life is crazier.
It's getting closer to real life.
It's getting close, yeah.
Like with a lot of twists in the especially the 4th season.
Right.
We're actually reading stuff like that in the news.
Right. Yeah. It's actually very true. I mean, 16 Hours from LA. I watched everything from season 5 and it was heavy to take in because the writing was very.
You're like watching the episode and it's like, special prosecutor,
right?
And then you read the news and it's like,
right, like I remember this happening. Yeah, I saw the news
yesterday.
This
title. I saw it. Yeah,
I was on MSNBC yesterday, and that was happening.
That was happening.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's like FBI, CIA, and then you see like all these things that are happening in parallel, and so I still think. Like with Game of Thrones, I still think they got a lot going for them. The writing is still, from what I hear from my friends, the writing is still good.
It's good, but it's just ended.
Well, here's the thing: the show that should have ended a long time ago was Prison Break.
Prison Break.
They still released a new season,
right?
And it flopped.
Right.
It was so bad.
Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead. I just think, guys, 8 seasons. Come on, just finish it.
That's what Seinfeld did. Season 9 killed it.
Yeah, you know what? But at least a sitcom, it's not a recurring or it's not a story that keeps going. It's just.
Well, here's the thing with sitcoms. That was the thing back then.
Right.
But they were still facing the same kind of dynamic with viewership that they're doing now.
Right.
With regular series, drama series, or whatever. I guess the only surviving sitcom from that era that should have died a long time ago was Big Bang Theory.
Right. Yeah.
Which just...
I never got into it.
I got into it in the first seasons, but now it's season 10. it's getting a little.
10 seasons.
Yeah, it's.
Wow.
It turned into an airplane sitcom.
Damn. That's our 1 hour mark.
Okay. So it turned into an airplane sitcom.
Yeah.
Like it's just. You only watch it on airplanes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, we've been talking for an hour, a little more than an hour actually, an hour and 10 minutes. But I just want to thank you for taking the time. I know you have so much on your plate, and you gotta probably go to another meeting and do your thing.
It's fine.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me here. And I'm pushing this whole podcasting thing. I'm gonna throw it up on iTunes and put it up on YouTube, put it up on Facebook. And
it is picking up to be the next big thing to replace radio shows.
Yeah, I love podcasting. It's something that I absolutely...
It's really picking up in the Middle East.
I hope so, because it's the only thing I do when I run, when I exercise, when I do things that I really don't want to be doing. Podcasting is the thing I love doing.
Driving or whatever, yeah.
Driving, exactly. So... and it's a great podcast, is always dictated by a great guest and a great person who has good ideas. So I really thank you so much for having the time with me. And yeah, man. So hopefully we can have you again, maybe for the 100th episode. You never know.
Sure.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, man.